All right, we got a lot of college basketball action. First, let me get over some of the sides that we already got down on. 772 Delaware plus the 6. 773 Hampton plus the 4. 834, San Francisco plus the 6. 837 Sacramento State plus the 8.5. 853 Cal State Fullerton plus the 16.5. They like the dogs this night. They like the dogs. Couple totals for you. 836 under 148.5. Portland State, Idaho. 842 under 143. Cal Santa Barbara, Cal Bakersfield. 860 under 146.5. Washington State, Oregon State. That tells you something. Bias of bettors is usually to go over. And these guys came in under early instead of waiting for these totals to possibly go up. Shows you that they already saw some value there. I'd pay attention, but also follow how those totals move, just in case there's some manipulation behind it. And finally, the added board games, which is usually sharps versus books. Once again, they're on the dogs. Long Island, 306-583. Long Island plus the 1, and 306-578. New Hampshire plus the 9. So if the dogs bark tonight, probably going to see the accounts go up that I bet into. If it's a chalky night, I'll probably see a lot of red tomorrow. I'll tell you real quickly, man. I'll give you 2 favorites that I actually bet. Line moved a little bit, but I know people like throwing in money line favorites. We already bet Kevin Jusette. That's a hometown guy. And the other guy added today was Jake Matthews. He's on the main card. Another hometown guy, Australian, fighters. So we're not afraid to back them, not afraid to lay a little chalk for them as well. Because like you said, wouldn't be the worst thing to have an Australian crowd into the fights. You know what I mean? Because their guys are getting the job done. And you see some of that, even some short notice fighters that are being thrown in there that aren't in very good positions. So don't be afraid to lay a little bit of chalk on some of those home guys. Because you got to know the judges are a little bit skewed. The crowd, more importantly, it's not like the judges are going to change their minds, but you're get affected by what the crowd's doing. Like if the hometown fighter lands a big shot and the crowd goes nuts, that's going to put emphasis on that shot, even if it didn't do a lot of damage.
You've got Dricus du Plessis. He is going to be minus 210 as the current champion. On the other side here, you've got Sean Strickland. He's plus 170. And to your point, Joe, this is a fight where the last fight, very close, split decision. It did go to Dricus on that spot, but you look at the strikes landed. It was 173 to 137 in favor of Strickland. And the interesting part about it, and the reason why I do believe that DDP got the nod, was first being the fact that he has the more impactful shots. He is definitely by far the harder hitter. He's a guy that's going to be landing the damage between the two of these guys. And the other part was the takedown. Really well-timed takedowns from DDP, and he was able to get some control time. And you look at really what Strickland does, and he pretty much does the same thing almost every fight. He's going to come forward. He's going to walk you down. He's going to throw a simple 1-2 combination. He's going to look to utilize the jab, teep kicks to the body, not look to wrestle, not look to commit to his punches, and really kind of go in there and look for a barn burner. And that's really the difference between, I think, him and DDP, where DDP is a guy who is going to fight smart. He's going to mix it up. And again, he's going to be the harder hitter. He's going to be the guy that's going to be looking to pile up the damage. He definitely is going to look for those takedowns. And that's something that he did so well in the last one, where if the round was close, there was a close, maybe it was a pitter-patter shots back and forth. You couldn't really tell. By near the end of the round, Dricus would look for takedowns and get that takedown, end up on top position by the end of the round. Optically, it looks very good for the judges. That's another reason why he was getting the nod. He had 6 takedowns in that fight. He averages 3 takedowns per 15 minutes. So this being a 5-rounder, you're going to be getting those takedowns from DDP. And then the other part here is going to be the unorthodox style. That is something that, I have been betting DDP on his rise up consistently on client plays. And this is a guy that it's just awkward movement, awkward, herky-jerky kind of style, throws punches, very weird angles. And this is a spot where I actually do believe it's going to play out very similar to their last fight, where I do think it's going to be some competitive rounds. I do think that you're going to have Strickland kind of weaponizing that cardio. But in general, he's not a guy that's easy to put away. Strickland has only been finished twice in his professional career. One of them was by Alex Pereira. I don't think that Dricus is going to get the finish. I think that he will get the nod on the scorecard. So you're looking at by points is sitting around plus 160, 165. And I do think it's a very likely path for him to keep the title. Vyacheslav Borshchev, he is minus 150 on the comeback here. You've got Tom Nolan plus 118. Now, there's definitely no doubt that Borshchev is going to have the better technical striker. He is the striking coach for Team Alpha Male. He's got good, arsenal of kicks, definitely fast developing combinations. But the big issue for me here is the fact that, it just seems like he's starting to decline. He's 33 years old now. He has taken a ton of damage over the last 3 fights. And really the big red flags on Borshchev is going to be the durability concern. Now, it's not like Tom Nolan is, the poster child for a granite chin, but I do think that at this point, we're not seeing Borshchev really absorbing shots very well. The chin is very iffy. And the biggest red flag that you can look at as a chin is if Chase Hooper, who does not have striking, is just a pure grappler, no power, was able to drop you, and he was able to drop Borshchev in their fight before he mauled him. I think that's a huge red flag. And then also the cardio now. Borshchev is a guy that is going to throw a lot of high-powered stuff, but this is the point now, and even most recently against James Yontop, who is really a very green, brawling type of fighter. And by the time that fight got to the third round, it was really Yontop moving forward, throwing the bigger shots. It looked like Borshchev was really starting to wilt, and I just don't think that's a good sign here where you're about to face Tom Nolan, who does bring a lot of power. And also, I do think the clear vulnerability here on the Borshchev side, he has absolutely terrible takedown defense. This is a guy out of his last 8 fights has been taken down 29 times. Now, Nolan does not have any takedowns in the UFC, but he's 24 years old. There is no doubt this guy has to start adding tools to his arsenal. He has to start rounding out his skill set. I do believe he's going to be doing that. Now you back that up with he's going to have the bigger frame. He's going to have a 4-inch height advantage, a 4-inch reach advantage. He's going to be 8 years younger than Borshchev. And I just think you're going to see massive improvements here. So I think there's a lot pointing you at the underdog here and that plus money. So I do like Tom Nolan to get the job done at that plus 118 number.
Justin Thomas had a great quote after one of the majors last year where the winner shot like minus 20, which is never supposed to happen. Justin Thomas said, if there's no wind and the greens are receptive, we're going to tear it up. And so when you're looking at that, you're looking at playing some plays that are going well. And so, yeah, Sepp Straka's already well on pace to go under his round score. So let's take an afternoon guy under 69.5 for Siwoo Kim. This is only 2 under. This is only a par 71 course. So you just need to get to 2 under. And Joe, he just really likes playing here. He's finished 12th, 23rd, and 26th the last 3 years here. And just go look at his scores from last year. He shot 68, 68, 69, 67. So all 4 rounds last year, he went under the 69.5 total. So I like the way the course is playing. There's no wind. Temperature is perfect. You're getting good roll on the fairway. There was some concern that the rough was going to be really, really tall, long, thick, but the guys have not had problems getting out of it. So I like these afternoon guys to shoot pretty low today.
If it ain't broke, people, we ain't fixing it. And I am backing you on this one, Andy.
Yeah, Sam Bennett, over 2.5 shots on goal. He's gone over in 10 straight games, 16 out of last 20. There was concern for Sam Bennett because he was clearly not 100%, and we were rolling with him to not have points. He looks like he's healthy now, and he's really involved in the offense. And, Joe, he is a puck-firing machine. The last 20 games, 7 shot attempts on goal and 4.1 shots on goal. You're getting reasonable juice on this one. This is absolutely a client play. We've been playing this one for a while. So you just keep riding Sam Bennett over 2.5 shots on goal. I know it's good. I know the streak is not going to last forever, but you just keep playing it. And then when he finally goes under, you go right back to it. There's the Florida Panthers team that shoots the puck a lot, and Sam Bennett is one of their top shots on goal guys. So, yeah, just ride Bennett over 2.5 shots on goal. Yeah, it's college lacrosse season, and we brought in 30 units last year in lacrosse. This is such a hidden market. The lines are soft. The books they're asleep at the wheel with some of these, and this is just a perfect example. So Marquette is playing at home to Detroit Mercy. Marquette scored 1 goal last week, Joe. Only 1. So why would we take the over in a Marquette game when they only scored 1 goal? Well, they're playing a way weak opponent in Detroit Mercy. And here's the key. This is amazing. Marquette in winter months, their field is outdoors, but in the winter months, they put this big white inflatable dome over their field, and it's white. That's the same color as the ball. The goalies it's almost impossible to see the ball come flying in. These two teams played last year. The final score was 22-8. They scored 30 goals, and we're getting 23 and a half as the total. And this is just one of those things that the books don't take into account. They're looking at averages and, how many goals we think, and they don't take into account this complete X factor of this big white inflatable dome that's over Marquette's field that makes the sight lines almost impossible for goalies to see. So expect a lot of goals, expect a lot of shots. And if you're Marquette, boy, you want to pour the gas on this fire. If you get up, you're going to keep scoring. After a 1-goal performance, I look for them to play really well and to get up and over this 23.5 total.
The Dallas situation is just right now, until Saturday, it's going to be pretty much a mess, right? That's when I think Anthony Davis is going to make his debut. Now, there's a shot that he plays tonight, but just not sure that they would put him out there tonight against Boston. He's gone through workouts the last couple of days. Certainly, he thinks he's feeling better, but it seems like Saturday's the more likely time for him. It's the 5th game of a 5-game road trip for Dallas. Certainly shorthanded fatigue has to set in at this point. They haven't played defense at all in the last couple of games. Not sure they'll start playing good defense here against this particular team. Boston, where the rest advantage is concerned, in real good shape. Second of back-to-back home games, and they had yesterday off. So clear advantage schedule-wise to the Boston Celtics. I'm going to go back just a couple of games ago, Joe, and look at what Jason Tatum said after they came back against the Philadelphia 76ers. I think they scored 54 in the final 74 in that game. He talked about competitive joy, how great it feels to all be on the same page again. And you take that with a grain of salt and say, okay, let's see what you do against Cleveland. And sure enough, 112-105. Not many teams hold Cleveland to 105. Boston did it. They took it. They took what Tatum said and carried it through. And I think this is going to run right through the All-Star game. There's about 4 games left for Boston. And I'll just take a quick quote from Kristaps Porzingis, who said it's important for us to finish strong going into the All-Star break. Get some rest, then have the really good home stretch of the regular season at the right moment. For Dallas, same problem, especially if AD doesn't go. There's no rim protection. 76ers had 64 points in the paint the other night. Dallas giving up 125 a game over their last 5, 28th in defensive efficiency. Just not good. I'm going to say this. Boston hasn't been good at home this year, and I'm a little bit leery to lay that many points. I wouldn't argue anybody off of doing it. It's a difficult matchup for Kyrie Irving. Remember, this is the best perimeter defense in the league. Kyrie's got to go up against it. He's the only scorer. But I think Boston comes out of the gates quick here. As I mentioned, Dallas is in the 5th of 5 road games. First half line, you can find 5.5s all over the place. I would lay 5.5 in the first half with Boston, thinking that they get the job done. This newfound mindset of playing hard, I think I'll stick with it, and we'll roll with Boston first half. It's a tough spot for Golden State. We just talked about 5th and 5 nights being tough for Dallas. This is even tougher, I think, for Golden State here, just because of the shyness of depth. Steve Kerr talks about yesterday's trade like this. He said, this is hard. This is the business. We know that. We talk about it periodically. Everyone moves on. You say your goodbyes. Brandon Podziemski even talked about there being tears in the locker room after the trade was announced for Jimmy Butler yesterday. And he went on to say, we're down a lot of people right now. Somebody else has to step up. That's what I'm here to do. He had 29 in Salt Lake last night. Not only is it back-to-back travel, Joe, but it's just that. It's travel from altitude in a game where it was, nip and tuck the entire way through the fourth quarter. They're not extensive minutes, but they were, tough minutes when you're trying to win a ball game. Golden State didn't do that. The Lakers, they're depth shy too. Let's face it. I mean, the trade that they pulled off for Mark Williams last night leaves them with probably about 7 players in this game. If Gabe Vincent can't go, it leaves them with 7. But at least the Lakers starting lineup has been played together the last few games, and they've looked great, right? They go to Madison Square Garden, destroy the Knicks, score 120 plus, come back to LA, destroy the Clippers, score 120 plus. Lakers seem to be on a roll right now. And again, they're rested. They've stayed at home. So travel situation, rest schedule, however you want to word it, good for the Lakers. Both teams pretty depth shy right now. I think they're just of different mindsets at this point. This specific moment, it looks like Golden State is a little more, depressed mindset, where the Lakers are pretty joyous. They got Mark Williams yesterday. This is a pretty happy team right now. I think the game plan for them, pretty simple, Joe. You come out of the gates running. LA's been scoring big lately. Why not run a team that had to play a 134-129 game in Salt Lake last night? It seems like a contest, though, where when each side only has 7 guys, that the depth on defense is not going to be there. So I think over in this game is a good look. 221.5 seems to be a bit low. I think it's reasonable. I'm going to play it that way. Golden State, LA over 221.5. We're asked here today to bring a prop to the table, so I'll bring you one of my favorite props in this game. And that's just going to be, it sounds redundant, but let's bet on Patrick Mahomes. His passing yard total it was 250.5. It's bumped up to 251.5. But to me, it's still too low. The first question I asked myself, Joe, very simply was, do I think KC can gain 350 yards in this contest? I happen to think they can. Can they gain 100 of that on the ground? Because that would put Patrick Mahomes down to 250 passing. I don't think they can gain 100 on the ground just due to the matchup. KC's ground game hasn't been great. Philadelphia's run defense is elite. It's going to have to be in the air for Kansas City. If you add to that real quickly, I'll just jump ahead a couple of spots here. If you add to that the fact that KC may be playing from behind like they did in that first Super Bowl, then the ball gets up in the air even more. Where the passing game is concerned, I just find, and I've been talking about this for 5 weeks, the diversity of that passing game that Kansas City has is just too much to handle. If you go through their games, you'll find that Houston tried their best to just single up Travis Kelce with their middle linebacker, Azeez Al-Shaair. Didn't work. Kelce chewed him up. Buffalo came with the opposite approach. Let's try and bracket Kelce. Let the other guys have theirs. The other guys got theirs. Mahomes threw for 242, and the only reason why he didn't get to 252, which is what we need here, is because they were able to run against a weak Buffalo defense. They gained 135 on the ground. Some of that due to Mahomes' scrambles. You have to figure that in. But still, you're not going to run on Philly the way that you ran on Buffalo. If you look back, Tyler Higbee had a huge game against this team before he got hurt. Zach Ertz had 11 catches last week. So Kelce's going to be a problem no matter what. But when you start adding in Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy and that speed, 2 guys, not 1, 2 guys that can beat you vertically, it's tough. Hopkins, Schuster, the guys that don't show up in box scores that often but make 20-yard catches, Noah Gray, the running back screen passes. 251 to me seems awfully, awfully low. I think the point is pretty simple here, that Philadelphia's got a good enough run defense to force KC to the air. Andy Reid knows that. He's had 2 weeks to put a passing game plan together. I like that. The Philadelphia pass rush, which a lot of people talk about rightfully so, it's not better than Houston's. Houston's probably better. If Philly's run defense isn't better than Houston statistically, so they've already seen this. KC tried to force the run against Houston. 22 of 50 offensive plays were running plays. Some of that due to the fact that they were ahead late. Just go back, Joe. I'm not taking very much from that first Super Bowl between these two, but I'll leave you with these 2 thoughts. The receiving core Kansas City had that game was garbage. Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney caught meaningful touchdown passes in that game. That's what they were down to in that contest. Here, this receiving core is significantly better. Also, in that game, Philadelphia was ahead 24-14 at halftime. In the second half, KC scored on every single drive. Andy Reid had open receivers like I've never seen before, simply outcoached Jonathan Gannon. Some people say, oh, that's Jonathan Gannon. It's not Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio's 0-8 against Patrick Mahomes. I'm going to lean toward Andy Reid. I'm going to lean toward Patrick Mahomes. I'm going to lead to that passing game going over 251.5 passing yards.